County Board of Construction Appeals, June 26th. If we can all rise, Mr. Vice Chair, if you'll lead us in a prayer.
Yes. Lord, we just thank you for tonight, this afternoon and tonight. We thank you for what you've done for us. We pray that we would comprehend and understand what's being said to us so that we can be ready in case we have something we need to decide on. So we thank you for everybody here. Bless them. Keep us safe in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Lynch, you're leading the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barry Bryden.
Present.
Roger Smith.
Present.
Bruce Quinn.
Here.
Mr. Brian Lynch. Here. Tim Money. Mr. Michael Williams. John Cano.
Yes.
Wally Gilliam.
All right. So we do have a quorum. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? All right. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes? Second? So a motion, those minutes are approved.
Vote on it.
Vote.
You have a motion in a second, you have to have a vote.
Oh, everybody in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. You're right. Sorry. Everybody had a chance to review the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda tonight? Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, so motion is approved. There's nobody here to speak on the public. I have nothing to report. Let's move on to old business, continuing the PowerPoint, adopted the 2021 Building Codes, Part 3.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we still have a lot to go over, so I don't think we need to go back and review Part 1 and Part 2. If we're going to try to get to the end tonight, we still have 25 slides approximately to go through. And then I think we want to talk about radon and radon requirements before we bring it to a conclusion. But Mr. Chairman, if we go too long, just let us know. We'll cut it half and do a Part 4. But
Okay.
I don't expect it to be more than an hour probably for everything. I'll go through it real quick. But each one of these slides, we could probably take individual and talk on them for an hour. There's a lot of information here, but we'll just hit the high points. And if anybody has any questions, just stop me and we'll be glad to talk about it. So we ended last meeting on slide number 35. We'll start off on slide number 36, and where it says in parentheses IRC, that's we're talking about the International Residential Code. And where it says P2801.6, the piece that is abbreviated for plumbing. So this is plumbing residential. In the original text, it states where a storage tank type water heater or hot water storage tank is installed in a location where water leakage from the tank will cause damage, the tank shall be installed in a pan constructed of one of these following. And that's galvanized and plastic with certain thickness or other approved material. When it says approved anywhere in the code, that means it's approved by the building official. And you'll see that throughout all the codes. A plastic plan beneath a gas fired water heater shall be constructed of this material, according to the American Standard for Testing Material, United Laboratories. The change we made on this should be the next slide, and it's been a long time since I've visited this, but there it is. We amended it by stating that no pan is required where water heaters are installed in a crawl space or in a basement without living space. Water heater relief valve piping shall terminate 6 to 10 inches above the floor crawl space. We just put that in there for clarification mostly, that in our opinion, and if it's in a crawl space or if it's in a basement and it's no living space, just a basement, raw basement, then it's not really required.
Well, the piping has got to terminate in a place where it's visible to the occupants, whether that's outside the foundation wall or not. And it's supposed to terminate no more than 4 inches above the ground because of the steam hot water.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's got to be terminate in a conspicuous place, which means you can view it and keep an eye on it in case there was some kind of in case it stopped up, then you wouldn't have a hot water explosion in your tank.
I know we're in a hurry to get through this, but my question is a garage considered living space with that, or non-living space with, it says basement, but would just a garage without living space be considered?
Yeah, the code would identify garage as a non-living space. Is that correct, Terry?
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay.
The only thing for me on that code thing is it's very vague when it comes to where additional damage may occur. They don't say what additional damage is. Now, to me, if it's going to damage the flooring, if it's going to damage the base mold, the shoe molding, the drywall, that's additional damage. But I've seen them where, oh, well, it's a concrete floor, it doesn't need one. But you're still going to damage the surrounding construction materials if that thing leaks. So it doesn't clarify that for me. I'm just like,
Yeah, the code are minimum standards, and anybody that builds a house should really build it far above the minimum standards of the code. And it's silent on things like that. Like you talked to them, they just leave it up to the interpretation of the local building inspector more than anything. Okay. The next one, thermal expansion tanks. Thermal expansion controls. It states in the original, a means for controlling increased pressure caused by thermal expansion shall be installed where required in accordance with the plumbing section this and the plumbing section 2903.4.2. The change was amended that says tanks commonly referred to as hot water tanks, expansion tanks. Let me start over. It says tanks commonly referred to as hot water expansion tanks shall be installed on all hot water tanks. Y'all seen these. I don't know if you recognize them. I know Bruce has, and some of y'all have. It's usually a gallon metal tank on top of your hot water tank. And that's called an expansion tank. And if there's a stop up, like you just mentioned, in the line, then the thermal heat wouldn't expand the hot water tank and cause an eruption, possibly an explosion or something like that. That water will be pushed back into that reservoir hot water expansion tank, and it wouldn't, and theoretically, it wouldn't cause an explosion. So we required on everything except we required on all hot water tanks except instant hot water tanks, and then they say it's not needed. And
tankless water heater.
Yeah, tankless water heater.
So what about if you replace a water heater?
You replace a water heater, then it's required.
Okay, so I ran into that the other day, and I was like,
Yeah. That's one thing we look for. Okay. Slide number 39, water hammer. The original text, and we're still in the residential plumbing code, okay? Original text, water hammer, the flow velocity of a water distribution system shall be controlled to reduce the possibility of water hammer. Water hammer arrestor shall be installed where quick closing valves are utilized. A water hammer arrestor is almost like a shock absorber, okay? And they put it in the water lines wherever they have a quick closing valve, because if you ever turned on a washing machine, something, and it just jars like this, okay. That's what they're talking about. And they're saying that they're required, a water hammer's required on quick closing valves. And we clarified a little bit that in the change, we just basically said water hammer arrestor shall be installed on all washing machines, dishwashers, and standalone ice makers, because that's the three primary things that cause a water hammer.
It's because of solenoids on them, because they all
Okay.
close so fast.
Is that right? Okay.
It's just like a quick turn.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Service valve original text, and this is a turnoff valve for your potable water. The code requires a turnoff valve at the curb. It requires a turnoff valve outside before the water comes into the house. But it doesn't say you have to have one inside the house. But we put that in the code that it's required inside the house or inside the garage. The reason being, if there was snow out there and you had an emergency and you went out there and you couldn't see where your turnoff valve is because they're usually at grade or below grade. So it made sense to us to require your potable main water turnoff valve, having one in the garage.
So clarification,
Mhm.
White House water turn-off valve. You want another one outside the house and then one inside the house.
Yeah, the code requires one at the curb, one before it goes into the house. But we're requiring an additional one to have one in. Yeah. For emergency purposes, at least you should be able to find it quicker. Okay? Plumbing, residential service valve change, that's what we just talked about. Paraphrasing it. Purging, inspection, okay, we're going to the fuel gas now where it says G 2417.1. We're going to natural gas, fuel gas, residential. And it talks about inspections, testing, and purging. In the original text, it says inspection shall consist of visual examinations during or after manufacture, fabrication, assembly, or pressure test. Well, about 5 years ago, we wasn't doing fuel gas inspections out in the county. It was either Gallatin Gas, help me out there, who else do? Piedmont Gas, those are two primary ones that provided natural gas out in the county. And we wasn't inspecting anything. We didn't have a plumbing inspector to do so at the time. But eventually we did get a plumbing inspector, and he's doing them now in the Gallatin region, which is about half of Sumner County out in, they service. And what we did is Gallatin's Building and Coast Department used to do it, but they didn't want to do it anymore for whatever reason, I don't know. And they said from now on, Sumner County Codes is going to do it.
One more thing. We did get permits. We get
So
permits.
Gallatin, who then? You're going to see as well?
No, just outside the rural,
Just the Sumner.
yeah, in Gallatin.
Gallatin supplies the fuel gas, but it's out in the county.
So what about LP?
Yes.
And we do get
Same
permits
thing.
for that too.
But this is a big change for us without any help. So it was kind of just put on us, and
Well, I got a wonder, I mean, is there any compensation to county workers being thrown from budget? I mean, because that's a budgeting issue, if you ask me.
well, we cried a little bit, but we absorbed it and adapted. But we do a lot of fuel gas out in the county with one plumbing inspector. And but anyway, the change that we made is what you see on the PowerPoint right now is a change, and this change comes from Gallatin Gas. Okay, this is what they wanted. The type inspections, the rough fuel gas inspection, the gas meter release inspection, the final inspection, because that's who we inspect for, is Gallatin. So we changed from the original right here, that inspection shall consist of visual examinations during or after and we adopted what Gallatin Gas says we need to be doing.
Pretty
Okay.
much what we do in all fuel gas. You know, whether it's Gallatin.
Pressure, y'all go by pressure mostly, right?
Yeah.
So nobody gets their gas turned on until our plumbing inspector calls in a final inspection said it's been approved. And he's been trained in this. He's been doing it for 5 years now, so we've been doing this.
We've been doing it basically since I've been
Okay, well, a long time.
Yeah.
8 years.
Not specifically for Gallatin, but we've been doing the plumbing and mechanical.
Oh, yeah, but I'm talking about the fuel gas.
Yeah, for about 5 years.
Okay.
One in Hendersonville last week. The piping was buried below grade from the meter, which was buried behind poison ivy, which, yeah, anyway, it came up out of the ground in front of the package unit. The shutoff valve was at grade. Everything was at grade. There was no protection from lawnmowers, weed eaters, or anything. And I'm like, all I can think of somebody get out there and one of them steel weed eater things and nick that thing. It was iron.
All right, moving on. We're still in gas, residential gas. This talks about test pressure, 1.5 times the proposed maximum working pressure. And we changed that, test pressure, per what Gallatin Fuel Gas, Company, Gallatin Utilities, is that the proper way? Is that Gallatin Utilities wanted? So.
So the inspection's at least 10 minutes.
Yeah.
On the pressure test.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how many times we'll go out and there's 0 on the gauge.
It's 10 minutes.
So they changed it to parentheses 10.
Is it 20 or 10?
10 minutes, 30 pounds per 10 minutes.
Total pressure for a length of time no less than 20, parentheses 10. That was your modification on
Yeah.
that?
Most of the time, they've been pressured overnight.
Okay.
The thing is about y'all's building codes department here in Sumner County, we'll go back and re-inspect time and time again. It won't charge anything for a re-inspection. Almost always, we'll never charge anything unless we feel like that somebody's trying to manipulate us, and then we'll charge for a re-inspection, or they ask for an inspection and they don't give us access, like the door's locked, something can't get in, then we may charge for a re-inspection. But outside of that, we try to really work with them.
Well, I know it's a burden on contractors, but if you'll agree with this, I think somebody needs to be there when y'all come and inspect. Whatever you're inspecting, plumbing or whatever, and I know it's a burden on the builder, because they don't put money in there for that.
Especially if somebody's living in the house.
Oh,
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons why.
Yeah, we get that, yeah, absolutely. And it's not uncommon for us to have to go in and do inspection while somebody's living there. So,
And this is on a new construction?
no, remodeling,
Oh,
remediations, remodeling, that kind
I'm
of
saying,
stuff.
I think an occupancy permit, if they
Yeah. All right, let's see where we're at. Oh, this is energy code. This is probably gave us more headache than anything else, energy code, because the federal government gets involved in the energy code. And all this, the regulation is, the federal government is behind the vast majority of it. This talks about, testing. Okay, I'm not gonna read none of this, but I'm just gonna tell you what it says. All right, this talks about, blower door testing. Some of y'all are probably familiar with blower door testing. It says that that the air changes can't go more than 5 air changes per hour. In other words, they want the house to breathe, but they don't want it to have more than 5 air changes per hour, because they say it's not insulated good enough, or you're not caulked good enough, or whatever. So what they do is they do a blower door test on the front door. They'll put a fan on there with electronics, and they'll tape all the door up, and they'll tape all the vents up, the windows up, and then they'll see what the air changes are. That they put that in the codes in 2015, and we took it out in 2015. They kept it in there in 2021, and we took it out in 20. The only way we could take it out, though, is the state fire marshal would allow us. So we had to get their permission to take it out. And most jurisdictions across the state has taken it out, except probably some of your heavy populated cities, that they probably have that in there. And This is very similar testing. This is a change. Testing the building thermal envelope mandatory was replaced with 2009 section visual inspection optional. So it's optional now, it's not mandatory. This is very similar. They wanted the ducts to be tested, the HVAC ducts to be tested in all new homes to see if it had air leakage and all that. So we took it out in 2015, and we took it out in 2021, duct testing. And there's a change. We just made it optional, just like we did the blower door test. Energy tables. What is this saying? Second paragraph, draw your attention to that. 2021 insulation minimum R values and fenestration requirement components in table 1102.1.3, and we placed it with the 2009 tables. What we did here, and we had to get permission of State Farm Marshal to do this too, is the 2009, and this was very important to the contractors. In 2009 building codes, ICC building codes, you was the last code cycle that you could build a house out of 2x4 walls and able to insulate it with R, help me out, Terry, 13, R13. In 2012, it became more restrictive. 2015, it became more restrictive. 2018, more restrictive. Like the federal government now, 2021, more restrictive. And I've done research on this, but it's been a year or two. And right now, if you adopt it to 2021 International Residential Energy Code, you'd have to have around 38 inches of blown insulation in your attic. You wouldn't even be able to see your floor joists. You would never be able to plywood and store anything up there because R value becomes so restrictive. Your walls would have become from the 2009 R values in your walls, which you could have built two by fours. You'd have to start building a two by 10s in 2021. Yeah.
But they want affordable housing.
Yeah.
Kind of don't, they don't match.
Yeah.
Affordable is a relative term.
Yeah.
Now that they do make an option, like, well, if you can achieve this R value that we're telling you has to be achieved into 2021, you could put maybe 2x8 walls with insulation, but wrap it with a continuous insulation wrap all the way around the house, and therefore both of them combination you will be able to achieve it. But realistically, it's unrealistic.
Is that just based on batt insulation, or is that foam too?
Both. What they give you an R value, but as far as the thickness of the walls, that was bad insulation. In the walls, but in the ceiling, it was blown insulation. 30 something. I think it was 38. I could be off 2 or 3 inches.
Foam's a lot better, right? It's supposed to be.
It is.
Yeah.
But you should still, I don't think you would achieve the R value with
Of
the
what they're
wall, even with foam.
So the contractors, they was beside themselves when they was told they was going to have to build 2x8, 2x10 walls because they had to be that wide to be able to get the insulation in to satisfy the code. Electrical taken out because we don't do electrical. The state does electrical. Basically just says that state does it. This is the International Fire Code. We took 2 chapters out of it. I think maybe 3, but I believe it's 2 chapters on firework tents. And we were going to, whenever the county pulled back the planning regions. Y'all remember that? 5, 6 years ago? The cities had jurisdiction in the planning regions and the county took it back. Well, we had firework tents in the planning region, but we didn't have anything to do with it because it was the city's jurisdiction at the time. But when the county pulled back the planning regions, all of a sudden it became our responsibility. And here you go, have 4, 5, 6 firework tents in the planning regions. All of a sudden it's in our jurisdiction. So that's why we recommended adopting Chapter 31 and Chapter 56 out of the International Fire Code. We didn't want to adopt the whole fire code because we don't have a fire marshal in Sumner County or fire inspectors. We just wanted the part that gave us the authority to inspect tents. So that's what we did. It was pulled out. County commissioners just didn't want us to get involved in it apparently. But the good thing about it is that the state does come in and inspect these to a certain point. So they are covered to a certain point, but we, as far as the local jurisdiction, we don't have anything to do with it. Questions on this?
It's a legal issue or?
They didn't feel that they should be going through two different jurisdictions as far as permitting and inspections. You know, they're already getting it by the state. I guess they were getting a lot of feedback from some of the people.
Having to get 2 permits or whatever.
Yeah, or we hadn't really established how we'd go about doing it yet, but it was looking like that they would be getting 2 rounds of inspection instead of 1. And there could be conflict between us and the state.
After all, what could go wrong with thousands of pounds of explosives?
And you know, I'm perfectly happy with it because we got enough to do anyway, so it didn't hurt my feelings at all. Roger, you got something you want to say?
No, that was it.
Okay. Same thing, temporary, special event structures. That goes a little beyond fireworks tents. This also includes amusement park tents and stuff like that. If they come in and set up amusement parks, you know, yeah.
Wedding venue tents, special events, that kind of stuff.
So y'all don't do any of that then?
Not temporary tents, no. We do permanent wedding events buildings, but if somebody wants to come in and put a tent up to have a special events, we don't get involved in it. Same thing, continue original text, fire code change, international existing building codes. Okay, in 2015, when we adopted the family of codes that we adopted, we didn't adopt the existing building code, but in 2021 we did, and because the building codes that we adopted in 2015 don't really address existing buildings and remodeling and stuff like that. It's all basically new construction. And we thought it would be good to adopt the existing building codes, and the county commission thought it was a good idea too, and they supported it and they approved it. And I think it's a great idea. And so we only use this code whenever there's remodeling going on, and the existing building codes are broke down. It's been a long time since I've used it, since my last jurisdiction I worked at, but it is option 1, option 2, and option 3. That's what the existing building code is broke down 3 options. Option 1 is minor remodeling, and it tells you what the requirements is. Option 2 is medium remodeling, and option 3 is major remodeling. When you get to option 3, which is more than 50% of the building being remodeled and restored, then the whole building has to be come into compliance.
So if I want to remodel my kitchen, I don't have an obligation to put in 3 water shutoffs and everything else that I might not have, correct?
Basically, the things that you touch and work on needs to be brought up to code until you get to option 3. And then once you get to option 3,
Oh,
then the whole house has to be brought up to code.
Okay.
All right, let's see. We're almost to slide 60, International Energy Conservation Code. Okay. Seems like we dealt with energy earlier, and we did, but that was residential. This is commercial. Okay, so the commercial 21 International Commercial Code was adopted in its entirety with no amendments, no deletions, no appendices. International Swim Pool and Spa Code. We adopted the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, but we took out spas. We deleted that section that the spas do not need permits, and spas do not need inspections. Even if you put in a spa, it's got to be put in to code compliance, but we don't permit them and we don't inspect them. Like I said earlier, we got one plumbing inspector. He's already doing all this plumbing for the entire county, and he's doing the fuel gas. That was dumped on him. So I mean, we had to stop. We had to draw the line somewhere. So we don't inspect that. We don't inspect swimming pool plumbing either. We inspect swimming pools as far as the setbacks, life safety, the fence, the guards, the handrails, and all that, and the alarms. But we don't inspect the plumbing in the pools. I think that's getting ready to change. I think county commission is going to help us out on that. I hope so. But Terry, you got any thoughts on this?
The only thing about the plumbing inspection on the pool, they have to specify when they turn in with a permit what kind of pool it is, vinyl, fiberglass, or gunite. If it's a gunite pool, we have them put air on all the plumbing. We go out there and check before they start shooting a gunite. And you've got several air gauges on a swimming pool, and they've all got to be holding air before they can shoot the gunite. We'll probably likely start doing something like that for all in-ground pools.
All right, we're getting close to the end. ICC MBI, that stands for Modular Building Industry, and it's the standard for all sites construction. That is these books right here. These are standards for all site construction. There's so much codes that they can't put them all in the code book, so they come up with these standards. These standards, this is for all site. There's hundreds of these.
Prefab home stuff?
Yeah, but not just prefab. Anything that is regulated in the building industry, because they can't put it all in a book. They come up with these standards, and these standards are extension of the code, whatever it may be. These right here are talking about off-site, and basically what we're looking for, they have to be independently inspected and tagged before they're brought into Sumner County, because they're built in a warehouse and are manufactured, and we need to know that they were inspected independently. Now, we still allow buildings to come in, but if they do, they're gonna have to hire an engineer to go in and look at it, and inspect it, and write an engineer report and give it to us. They can do that, or they can give us a tag or something stating that it was independently inspected according to these standards here. And another one that I couldn't find a book for. We got it laying around the office. This is another standard: log homes, log structures. The code book doesn't address log homes. So they have a standard for it, log homes, and that's an extension of the code. You got some other examples of, Terry?
That covers it right there. Mobile homes
Yeah.
have their own inspection and approval.
Well, what do you do in the case of where they bring the walls, the prefab walls, that's a modular construction, or is this fall in the same category? Do they have to have that pre-tagged and pre-inspected,
Yeah.
or do they, same,
Same thing,
okay,
yeah.
All the pieces of those homes, you see them coming in on trucks.
yeah,
They've all got a designated tag on, like off a truss, it's got AB 100 on it,
I see,
like, or it's got an ID.
okay,
And that's if we go in and look at these houses as they're being built or put together, and there's damage to one of those trusses or mold, or looks like it's been out in the weather, we can use a lot of that information that's on the trusses to make a fix it.
I seen the other day, this program where they were actually, they had this large 3D printer, and they were 3D printing a house with
Yeah.
walls. So
Amazing.
that's gonna be a good one for y'all to get into with that.
Yeah,
one.
amazing. Yeah.
But y'all still do framing and all your normal inspections.
Yeah. On those houses, yeah.
Yeah.
Norman's Retreat, all of those are like that. Most places like that are bringing in the walls and the trusses.
Part two, this is something where Terry follows up. Terry, I think so. Let's see what it says. Yep, these are, every code cycle every 3 years, there's major changes in the codes, and there's a lot of insignificant codes. These are just 2 or 3 major changes from the 15 to the 21. You probably hadn't looked at this in a while, Terry, but you might.
I haven't, but
Let's see, we'll just,
one
this is,
thing right there is, before 2021, only gas-fired appliances needed to have a fire-protected floor over them. Now it's all appliances.
these are, trusses, eye joists.
Yeah.
With OSB, yeah, I see these a lot. Okay, and this is either crawl space or basement, can be either one. So go ahead, Terry.
In that situation right there, you have to either partition where those appliances are to basically make a room out of them, or fire protect the whole floor over those.
Just over that section where the appliances are, the whole floor.
Well, if you build rooms is what you
Oh,
You basically build a room for the appliances.
I see.
and fireproof that room.
Yeah, because the eye joists are they don't have a good fire protective component in them. There's a lot of glue and stuff in there. Yeah. And any unfinished basement, most of them have eye joists over them. And even if they're not going to finish the basement, we have them fire protect that ceiling above the basement.
So for standard lumber, then that's not required. This is eye joists.
Dimensional lumber, it's not required. It's got enough fire rating to hold its own.
And this would be fuel gas, but this be electrical too?
Yes, electric and fuel gas. But that changed in 2021. Used to be it was just fuel gas.
Okay.
Now it's everything. Well pump, motors, anything under there.
John, you got any thoughts on this, or?
I think it's done very well. I'm the engineer that sits back and hopes to find a help. So we've done really well here. I was going to congratulate everyone, because we all seem to be on the same, path.
Yeah.
The reason I'm not here is every night, then I'll probably be becoming bored more and more as we see how much I didn't know. So congratulations.
John, that is a tremendous compliment, and very humbled by the compliment coming from a man of your stature. And I know that our responsibilities as inspectors and the responsibilities of engineers overlap. You have your specialties in engineering, and we have ours, and together it seems to work. Yeah.
18 years at TVA and out of the box. Remember the energy saving groups and little, I forget what they used to call it, was solar. So I've gone through all of them, and this, what you've got here is a tremendous thing that everyone should have. Feedback is great. I didn't hear anyone trying to trash anybody else. Saying, or someone saying, I did it. Well, good. Once you bring it in here and show us how to do it, because we're here to learn, not to be a policeman. I'm sure that both your group says, hey, you'd much rather help someone than punish someone. You make it easy.
I think whoever selected this committee done a fabulous job. There's a lot of knowledge around here, and either one of them could speak on things that I'm not qualified to speak on, but all of us together make up a whole. So. Thank you very much. Terry, there's another one.
This is talking about this, minimum requirements for the footings for decks. Basically our frost line, we've got a pretty forgiving frost line here in Sumner County, but the footings for decks have to be at least a frost line of 12 inches and a 16 by 16 hole horizontally for a 6-inch post. And that's quite a hole for a post, but again, our frost line, 12 inches is not very deep.
No, I spent a few years in Illinois and it was 32 inches. And if you don't get at least 32 inches below, it spit it right out when the frost hard freeze, it spit it right out of the ground.
Another thing that I might bring up while we're on this topic is monolithic slabs. We've run across several instances over the course of the last 10 years where people will just try to build a house right on the ground and bring in a bunch of gravel, make a monolithic footing.
What do you call that, Terry? You got a nickname for it.
I don't. I call them Macon County slabs. But we require 12 inches below undisturbed soil, even for those. The house is gonna move. If you do that, you form it up and just pour concrete right on the ground. Code book plainly states that, but we're just now getting to the point where we're not getting some pushback for that. And we're over it pretty much now, because every now and then I'll pull in and there it is. You got a bunch of boards on top of the ground and about 5 truckloads of gravel in the middle of it.
Yeah, hadn't been degrassed yet or nothing.
No.
Yours, they didn't even remove the grass on the last one I saw. They didn't prep the soil, they didn't do anything. This guy just poured concrete over everything. There was a gap big enough to stick my arm through between the grade and the slab. And I'm sitting there looking at it, it's cracking every which way from Sunday, and I'm going.
It's going to. But while I was on that topic, I thought I'd bring that up too, because it wasn't in our presentation, but that's something we're enforcing now on monolithic slabs.
Well, while we're on the subject of decks, what about landings? Because I'm running into a lot of landings, and if you read what we're not code inspectors. I can't use that C word,
Yeah,
but I know what it says, and
talking about,
it's supposed to be a measurable grade, and they're just not. It's just one thing I learned inspecting decks is you can get 15 different opinions from 12 different people. It's crazy because some of the things I'm seeing now, even on new constructions, are stuff that hasn't been approved or allowed since 2015, and I'm going, who is doing this? Because it's frustrating for me, because then the builder comes back at me and says, "Oh, you're just nitpicking." I'm like, "No, I know what the requirements are, and this doesn't meet them."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think we touched a little bit on that in part one when we talked about cable guards, cables running horizontals on decks.
oh yeah,
We made a change on that too
Yeah, I
because
agree.
they get real slack and a kid could put their head through it and get trapped. So we require turnbuckles on cable guards, and also it has to be insulated with some kind of insulation. So
material that won't.
yeah. I still can't believe they took that ladder hazard thing out of the requirements, because any time we're seeing horizontal
yes.
posts, that's a ladder,
That
baby.
is-
They gonna crawl
That
up.
is a change we need to change next couple time with Dr.
Yeah.
Jones. We need to change that.
We almost did it this time.
Yeah.
All of our decks too, say you're adding a deck to a home, it's gotta be a freestanding deck even on side of the house. They're not gonna go into band joists with tap cons and lag bolts, things like that.
Half
It
the
needs to
time
hold
they
its own.
install those wrong too. So, I mean, I had one just recently where they installed it right over the vinyl siding. They never cut the siding back. They never put it on the ledger. Lag bolts all in a line. The thing was already pulling away from the structure, and the ledger was split. And I'm going, there's a reason why the requirements are the way they are.
They might have not pulled a permit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the other thing. Oh, well, I know a guy, he watched a video on YouTube, so he does decks now.
Terry, you know what this is about here? Speak on it a little bit. Changing fall protection. Yeah. Is this the last one before we go to the radon? I think it might be. Okay.
I was talking with somebody the other day about that.
All right, the bottom of a window. Anything under 2 feet inside and anything more than 6 foot outside has to have ASTM listed, 2090 listed fall protection devices on the windows, or you can get the fall protection devices to put on the windows.
What is that? Describe to us what that is.
It's a little, you put it on one side or the other of the window. Say you've got a window right on the floor in a bonus room. And, or with a lot of the lots you've got, the back windows of a house. And they're 6 foot windows. They're below 2 foot from the floor inside. They're more than 6 foot outside. So the window can't open more than 4 inches.
Yeah.
To be fall protected. And just like the openings on a deck, 4 inches, you hear 4 inches a lot throughout it's a baby's head's bigger than 4 inches. And, for a toddler. And, they can put these little thumb activated window devices on one side, and they'd be able to raise the window with the other hand. If they had a fire, something like that. You still need egress, but you need fall protection both. And that's the way you can achieve both.
Yeah, you'll see them on those new windows now. They got those little
Yeah.
levers on them where
Yeah.
they'll open and stop.
I'm really
and then you bypass
surprised
them.
that that's not a feature on all these high dollar.
Right.
It's it would just take out a whole lot of headache.
Well, you get a casement window and there's nothing there, and it's like,
Yeah.
Another thing we look at is tipping devices on kitchen stoves.
uh-huh.
It's not in the code, but the code says that appliances shall be installed according to manufacturer's installation instructions. So that's an extension of the code. So, and the installation instructions will say it needs a tipping device. So what they do is a little metal bracket goes on the floor. When you slide the kitchen stove in, the ledge goes underneath it where it can't tip over. And the reason for that, a lot of times the codes are reactive. They write a code because several people got hurt and they want to know how to fix it. Well, mama may be up there cooking spaghetti on the stove and she may go off distracted, and then the little toddler come in and they'll open the door and sit on it. And the stove dumps over on them. Well, that's reason that these installation instructions are extension of the code for things like that. So,
Well,
that's
illustration I use in our reports
there.
for that, yeah. Shows a kid climbing on the oven door and flaming pan coming over on him.
I think I've seen that, Bruce.
We look at that on every house.
New construction only, though, right?
Yeah.
All right, is that the end of,
Yes, sir, that's it.
now we're going to move on to number 10 on our agenda, discussion on radon requirements. And Marshall, you gonna start this, pass it over to Bruce?
Yes, sir.
All
I
right.
sure will. Let me find where I got it. All right, I put something together that's got page 1A, then page 1B, then it goes all the way to 6 or 7 pages highlighted in red. I asked Bruce to talk a little bit about radon because he sees this stuff all the time as a home inspector. That's just my email correspondence with him on page 1A. All right, when you go to 1B, this is out of the appendix, and there's several appendixes in every code book. It's always found in the back. Appendixes are not enforceable unless they're independently adopted by the local jurisdiction. We don't have any appendixes that adopted it. But if we wanted to, we can adopt an appendix. So it's there for us to adopt if we so choose. And Appendix AF is radon control methods. And you look and see where it says Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Carolina, all the way get to Tennessee. I got it highlighted in yellow. Just let me know when everybody gets there. It's going to look like this. Okay.
You just think got yellow on it, right?
We got 2 documents on radon. The one I'm holding up in my right hand is the one I'm going by right now. Okay.
I got it.
Okay. All right. This radon section comes out of Appendix AF of the International Radon, International Residential Code. And you go down where it's highlighted Tennessee, and well, let's go back up to the top of the page where it says Zone 1. You got 3 zones for radon. Zone 1 is extreme radon. Zone 2 is moderate radon, and Zone 3 is insignificant radon. There's a lot of radon apparently in Tennessee. All the counties around us is classified as Zone 1. I don't know why Sumner County's not. Yeah, apparently so. But you got Davidson County, Rutherford, Smith, Trousdale, Wilson, all them counties are Zone 1, extreme radon. But you'll find Sumner County in Zone 2 was moderate. And so we don't enforce radon. I guess if we was classified as Zone 1, we probably would have adopted it. But outside of that, Bruce sent some illustrated pictures, and this is the kind of stuff he goes across probably every day. And Bruce, I want to pass it on to you and let you talk about this now.
Okay, well, we're seeing a lot of this now, especially new builds. They're installing sub-slab radon mitigation systems, or they're putting radon mitigation systems in the crawl space. And again, they're all passive. Active has to have the motor. Passive is just air movement. And it is the wild, wild west when it comes to the actual installation of these things. I saw a new construction just recently that had 2 passive mitigation systems in it on a concrete slab with a basement. We did the radon testing there and it was horribly elevated, which means that it wasn't installed correctly. We saw another one where they swore up and down that it was installed correctly, but the piping was laying over the top of the plastic. The plastic wasn't sealed, it wasn't overlapped, it wasn't taped, it wasn't anything. So basically, they're telling people, oh, you got radon mitigation. Yeah, no, you don't. And, it's kind of misleading telling a homeowner, oh, well, you got a mitigation system in there if it's not done correctly. There's correct and there's incorrect. And I sent Marshall the illustrations from one of the new builds I just did where it was actually correct. Be still my beating heart. That doesn't happen all the time. But the barrier has to be overlapped 12 inches, should be taped all the way up the foundation walls, all the way around the columns, all the way around the pipe, and the pipe is supposed to be labeled. I run into this still where I know what I'm looking for, but the pipe is supposed to be readily identified as radon, and it's hit or miss whether we see that. Now, I've seen it where they just take pipe dope and put radon in purple on it. Hey, you know what? That works for me because it's identified. But
So is this illustration 4 correct? That's a correct.
yes, that's correct install, because they've actually got everything taped around it, taped up the columns. I mean, it was a good install. Like I said, a lot of times that doesn't happen. So when I see a radon mitigation system, but there's openings between the foundation wall and the gravel and everything else, that's not a mitigation system at all. That is not correct. And it's not, to me, something that should be allowed. But radon is one of those odd things. It is the most nebulous thing I've ever seen because, give for instance, had a house over in Albion Downs, had it for Airbnb for a while, went to sell it, came back with elevated radon, ended up having to put a active system in, but it was on a slab. Went to do an inspection a couple of streets over in the same subdivision, elevated radon. Did one the next street over, it was fine. So even just in one neighborhood, the levels can vary. And there are so many variances because of humidity, temperature.
It's all
All of the environmental impacts are impacting it as well. So it's
When you're rating the elevated radon, how do you know it's elevated? What are you looking at? Are you looking at numbers?
we have
leaves it in there
testers.
overnight.
We have to run minimum 48 hours. It has to run for 48 hours in the structure. Normally it's the living structure. Now, if it's a finished basement, we'll put it in the basement too, because it's where people are going to spend the most amount of time. People say, well, I should put it on the second floor. Well, because people aren't up there all the time. People are down in the living room, they're in the kitchen, they're all in that area. And the radon level is not going to be higher going up. So we'll run it there. And they are calibrated units. I have to send them in for calibration every year. And the lab sends them back, and they are certified. So when I set it in a property, I set it, leave it, post signs on the doors, because people, a lot of times, they don't understand. It's like it has to have closed house conditions. And what that means is don't leave the doors and windows standing open. I told somebody that last week because they were going to be moving, and I'm like, you can open the door and close it, but don't jack the garage door open and leave it open and be moving stuff
Yeah.
out because that'll throw the numbers off.
Absolutely.
So it's just, we put signs on the doors, maintain closed house conditions. They can run the HVAC, they can live in their house, but
Let me ask you a question, Bruce. As far as them and what they're doing now, like I said, it's the Wild West. Y'all don't require any radon testing of any kind, and I agree with that because it varies so much depending on weather. But should a home require a radon mitigation system, would it do them justice to anybody that's going to install one of those, that it be permitted and inspected, make sure that it's been properly installed and the people are not getting hoodoo?
If they were required in our county, we'd absolutely inspect it.
I mean, only in the event, it wouldn't be a prerequisite to building a home, but in the event there's a high radon test and it has to be a mitigation system, because obviously we've got an issue and he's seen it over and over.
well, my concern is that the builders are saying, oh, you have a radon mitigation
people
system.
don't.
Great. Well, who was the certified company that installed it? Because, it's supposed to be, NRPP certified people doing this stuff. And I got the feeling as Larry, Daryl, and Daryl with, a truck full of drywall and paint going out there and throwing some PVC in and going,
That's what it
it's
looks
good, boss.
Brian, you got.
So it's like, if they say they've got a radon mitigation system, at the very least, they should have it tested before people take occupancy to certify that that mitigation system works.
I mean, that'd be part of the deal to close the deal. You're lender. And, I mean, for everybody's sake involved in that, when something's been paid, it should be inspected that it's properly installed, in my opinion, if it had to be put in. So I think that would eliminate a lot of that.
That's all I know about it.
I got something else.
All right, good deal.
I got something. All right, look at illustration number 6 and illustration number 7, the photos that Bruce provided, and tell me what else we're looking at here. Besides radon mitigation. Terry, don't say anything. That's good.
Well, I'm a real estate broker. So.
That's good. All right, you notice on photo 7, there's no batted insulation between the floor joists. Illustrate. And the walls is blown insulation on the cinder block walls interior. That tells us that this is a conditioned crawl space. That, and also this vapor barrier that Bruce was talking about, that's a requirement for conditioned crawl space. You look at illustration number 6, how it goes up the block 8 inches and it's taped. It's serving 2 purposes. It's serving radon mitigation, also serving as conditioned crawl space. And if it wasn't a conditioned crawl space, you would see cross ventilation in the cinder block wall in so many feet apart, and you'd see batted insulation between your floor joists. That's the biggest telltale sign on a conditioned crawl space. And there's a lot more to it. We could talk about this for a long time. But that is 2 telltale signs that this is a conditioned crawl space. What do you think, Terry? I know you see this a lot.
This is another example where they just had to find their way learning how to do these conditioned crawl spaces. You've got
It was a very nice crawl space.
You got to have the right amount of air coming in and the right amount of air going out. And just here in the last 2 or 3 years, you're fairly confident that it's done correctly. When you can't see the register under there off the trunk line, or if you feel like it's not done right, I always ask them for a picture.
Right.
Before I'll give them a final occupancy.
I've been using a company out of Hendersonville. I've had a few of them done recently, and they do a phenomenal job.
They're doing so much better than they used to.
One thing that we saw, and it's a code change too, that in 2015 you only had to use 6 mil on the crawl space floor, but once your trade people get in there and crawl around on 6 mil, you're gonna have all these pinholes in it. You know, because you got a rock base underneath it and they crawl around, you got all these pinholes in it. Well, the sun is gonna soak that up and that moisture that's supposed to be underneath this vapor barrier, and all of a sudden is on your joist is now causing mold. So they changed it from a 6 mil to a 10 mil in the crawl space, and that's the reason why. Starting at 21.
Well, that's a good thing. Now you just keep them taping the seams and not pulling everything back and moving stuff out the way because they got to do this, that, the others.
Well, does anybody got anything else to add? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor?
Thanks, Steve.
When we get the out, I don't think we're gonna keep recording, but, Steve's on.